told me in the abuse were things that, like I said, it changed my mind frame going forth. He told me, listen, unless you're giving this to a man, no man's ever going to want to deal with you. Unless you're doing this right for a man, no man's ever going to want to deal with you. Unless you are sexually pleasing a man, this is what you need to learn. It was really sick how my father portrayed his abuse. It was sick. He got into my head. So when it got to the point of me having sex with a man for money, there were sometimes things that I was paid to do I didn't want to do. Men have paid me to be rough with me. Well, that's how my father was when he abused me. And yet I sat through that kind of stuff, for a buck, for the addiction, because it really wasn't, thank you, it really wasn't what I wanted to do. It was me and my addiction needing that money to fuel or to feed that emptiness that I had inside of me. I've dated men who talk bad to me. And when I say date in this forms, I mean I've slept with men for money who wanted to speak badly to me. I allowed it to happen. I was literally reliving some of the parts of my abuse so that I could get paid for this stuff. Which didn't do anything but damage me even more, because once I've done this act with you and I feel the way I feel, I'm digging in deeper on that cocaine. I'm digging in deeper on that monster because I need that. I need that to numb me back up after what I just been through so I can go do the next one. You don't got time to grieve and be still and do none of that shit while you are actively doing this kind of stuff, especially when you got an addiction on your back that you're trying to feed. I did that for about 4 months. It got too much for me to handle because I didn't want men touching me at that point. I got to a point I didn't want nobody touching me. It was hard for me to even, dance for a man because they want to touch you. I didn't want to be touched. So after that is when my life just started fading. I mean, I lived for my drug. I slept on couches. I slept on floors. I slept in dope houses because I didn't have nowhere to stay. And then I met my husband in the strip club. It's funny because our story is a story that probably don't normally have the ending that it has, and it's not done yet. But, I met my husband in a strip club. I was strung out, and I might have had a covering on that made me look pretty, but I was strung out, and when I met him, he started to try to feed me in ways that went completely against what my father had told me. He started to feed me in ways that, my husband spoke a lot of life into me. He would always remind me, listen, you too good for this place. I really don't know why you're here, but we here. So I went into a vicious cycle of abusing drugs, abusing myself, abusing other people. I went into a vicious cycle of doing that all throughout my 20s. And then something at 30, I got pregnant. I got pregnant with my first child, first and only. And then shit started hitting the fan because things had to start coming out, because I think that was God telling me in my life, it's time for you to start healing. It's time for you to start opening up some of these wounds, being cleansed of them, and start to heal, because now you have a child who's going to see you. And if she sees you like this, it's not going to do nothing but hurt her. I didn't want to carry on that cycle. I have bipolar disorder that I've struggled with since my trauma. Never, ever looked at taking care of my mental health, which when I had my daughter, it all started to affect me. And if you know anything about drugs, bipolar disorder it's basically your brain not being able to manage the serotonin and the dopamine that it shoots out. You're not able to handle your emotions like that. Um, well, cocaine as a drug, what it does is it directly affects your dopamine receptors and it floods your brain with dopamine. So you feel happy, you feel good, you want to bounce around, you want to do stuff. Well, it affects anybody badly, but then you take somebody that's dealing with a bipolar disorder who already has a dysfunctioning system of serotonin and dopamine, and you taking and you putting this drug in your body that's shooting out more dopamine. Well, now when you need it, you're depleted of it. So I fall into these deep phases of depression, of not wanting to live here, not wanting to, thinking my daughter was better off without me. Um, Not being able to control my emotions to the point of rage, of being dangerous to not only myself, but to anybody else standing around me. You know, people think it's cute these days to be tough. They think it's cute to be, oh, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? I'll take your whole head off, nigga. You know what I'm saying? That shit ain't cute. It's not cute because you change lives when you act like that. And I've been in positions where I've been so destructive that I've changed lives. And I'm thankful that my daughter is still standing and she has her dad to this day, that she's not messed up as she could be. Because my child could be jacked up. Let it have been for me. You know, the things that she's seen me do, the things that I've done, you know, like it was a struggle. But I realized after I had her that I had to, one, I had to kick that addiction. I had to, two, get my mental health under control. And I had to, three, which is the first thing, I had to start building a relationship with God because there was no way that I was going to make it through that. There was just no way. So I started trying to get better. And I failed a lot of the times because my heart really wasn't in getting better. You know, so I went to treatment.